round. You know that let's say there was like an 1 out of 7 chance ratio for these Team 2026 call. That means that a lot of quite good projects didn't make it, and the fact that you are here is because you really were in that top list. So congratulations to all of you. So we will explain a number of things with regard to this team startup process. Of course, I think that all of you that are here already know VLIR-EUS and the fact that we are a platform of the Flemish higher education institutions to engage in their cooperation with the Global South. So to engage with all of you that are here from the Global South in projects like TEAM and others. We have an annual budget of 32 million, even if that is under pressure in the current geopolitical and economical situation where budgets of development corporations are under pressure. We still have about 250 projects that are on a normal basis ongoing, and also a lot of scholarships that take part in Belgium in international master programs. We are part of the Flemish Inter-University Council, but we represent as well the universities and the universities of applied sciences and arts of the Flemish system. But we also collaborate with our French-speaking sister organization ARES and with the Tropical Institute of Antwerp. Now we mainly organize grant systems, and we fund partnerships or projects and scholarships, as you know. And today we will be talking basically about this the upstart of new projects. Important is that we expect, and that's also the reason that you were selected, that all of these projects also lead to an impact on society. We translate that into that we expect there will be uptake via policies, practices of what you are developing in your projects by certain layers in society. We are more than just a funder. That's, of course, where you get most in touch with us is this grant management, these calls that we are launching, the follow-up and the reporting. But we also want to make sure, and in the past that will become increasingly important, that we are a platform to put you and to put everybody in contact with other opportunities among within the academic sector, but also with other connections. And more as Belgium actors, we also try to collaborate stronger within a Team Belgium approach with all Belgian actors that are active in a given country. Also, we have a lot of projects, a lot to learn from, so we also want to develop in that sense our knowledge hub function. So we plan during the course of your project duration to try also to connect you with others, and maybe also to organize at certain points information sessions similar like now. And of course, pointing out that we at VLIR-EUS, we have a number of persons that are involved in the follow-up of these projects. You will be primarily in contact with global partnership managers that deal with specific countries, and in those countries they follow up on projects. For instance, myself, I'm the coordinator of the global partnerships cell or group of people, but I am also responsible for Latin America and Vietnam. So if there are Latin American representatives here, I will be the one that will be mostly in contact with the Flemish and the local promoters on the functioning of your projects. In case of Congo, Burundi, Benin, Morocco, Uganda, it's my colleague Kathleen Wuitak who will be doing the follow-up. For Tanzania and Kenya, that will be Geraldine Maba. For Rwanda, but that's for ongoing projects because we're not in this call. And South Africa and Palestine, it will be Laura Uwaze and Arne Willems for Ethiopia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Now, we are the ones that deal more with the day-to-day follow-up, but internally we also, of course, have other persons that are participating in all these follow-up activities, and I would primarily look at the financial experts in our team. Steven Brekke, finance coordinator. He is not here in the meeting today, but Peter Verbeek, financial advisor, he will say a few words later on. And then we also have Anne van Hulle and Christophe van der Perre, who will probably be in touch with you if it deals with the contracts that are going to be signed ultimately by the start of September. And then we have a part of the team that provides the whole follow-up for the functioning of our digitalization and our data. And Tim Zeeuts, he will talk later and explain some elements related to the pre-contractual info that has to be updated. And Mohamed Hakawati, he's our digital coordinator and data engineer. So we are in this procedure. It's a whole grant award, pre-award and post-award procedure as we see it, a cycle. So the whole part of the call has already been done, but now we're of course in this between the grant award step, which was the communication that we had a successful project, now until September, when the projects are effectively starting, is what we call the pre-contracting period. And then you will have, of course, also annual monitoring, annual reporting, and in the end, the project conclusion, but that is completion, but that is still very far away. So in this stage, what you still will receive from us is that you still did not receive the extract with the feedback of the selection commission. Now, in your case, since it was positive selected projects, there might be a number of recommendations that are, of course, of utility that you still could take on board. But mostly, of course, it's interesting for those that didn't get it so that they can learn what were the shortcomings in their proposal. So you will get in the next communication the feedback of the selection commission. You will also get a reviewed budget. And the idea is to finalize that budget in exchange with Fleurus, but Peter Verbeek will talk about this. And you will need to collect some information. We will need to check whether we have all the data from the local partner institutions to be able to fill out the contracts, the project contract. So that part is going to take us at least a number of weeks before everything is final. The next step will be that the contracts are actually prepared and signed via a digital platform, which is called DocuSign. Now, before I give the floor to my colleague, on the budget review, just to be clear, you will receive, as part of the next communication, the budget file with detailed comments and a Word file with general comments and recommendations, also explaining a little bit of what has been reviewed in the actual budget file itself. So we expect you to check our comments and to also take note of eventual corrections that were taken. We will take questions later on. I see that there are already questions, but we can have a moment later on. So you will be asked to revise your budget, and the idea is that, of course, at the level of the Flemish institutions, there are in the universities the ICOS that will support you in that procedure, and at the level of the Hogescholen, the Universities of Applied Sciences and Arts, there is also the global engagement officers that will play a role there. The idea is that you will get this communication from us next week because there is a holiday on Monday, and we need first also to have, let's say, the full reporting of the commission and approved by all the members. We need to perform the budget control, so that communication will be as early as possible. On I think it will be next Wednesday, but it could be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at the max that we will be sending out these general emails, and we will ask you to submit a review budget by the 11th of June. And the same for some pre-contractual data that needs to fill in, that will also be the same deadline. So before I give the floor to my colleague Peter, was there already one general question now? But I think the hand dropped again, so if not, then Peter Verbeek, and we're to Jan van Impe. Yes, I think you wanted to ask a question. We cannot hear you. You're muted.
We have understood that this round was on a condition that the Flemish government would still fund these projects. The fact that we are now selected, does that mean that we have the funding, if we do our job, of course, guaranteed for the next 5 years, even if there is no further call later on?
It's not it's not the Flemish government. The funding is coming from the federal Belgian Development Cooperation budget. These budgets are already allocated also in our next 5-year program. So even Vleruez as an organization will have a number of budget reductions as of the second year of your project or in our next 5-year program. But this project startup is already inserted in that. So in normal, except if let's say very drastic things would occur on the geopolitical meta level, these budgets are indeed these projects are selected and are guaranteed until the end.
Okay,
and of course there will be a project contract agreement that will also stipulate all the rules of the project and all of that. Sure. This is and that this is will be a part of the next steps indeed. Okay. If there are no pressing urgent questions now, then my colleague Peter Verbeek will explain a bit more about financial attention points. Peter, up to you.
Okay, let me start first by introducing myself. I work in the finance department, and at this stage, me and my colleagues, we are looking into the budgets. We also intervene when there are general questions that cannot be solved by the ECOS or the GEO, and your Flemish counterparts. And usually the communication passes through the people assigned to your country, so the program people. So we're the backbone, in fact, helping everybody to get it smoothly done. Now, in the budget, that's the phase we're in now. Next week, we will send our remarks, our comments to the budgets you have submitted. Why is this very important, this step? Because, well, you have been selected, and compared to lots of other projects, it's logical that the budget should reflect what you intend to do with that budget, the targets you want to meet. Then also, the budget, when it's finalized, it will also be part of the agreement. So the contract you will sign with Vleruez, the budget will be an annex to that. If the budget is not completed and the contract is not signed, we will not be able to send any money to start the project. And then also important is that it's very crucial. The budget is now in 5 years, and we will take every year the budget you have programmed in that year to do our installments. Later on, in a second or a third year, if you overspend, you will never get more from us than what you've originally budgeted now. So it's important to know when the funds are coming from Vleruez. That's crucial now in this budget. And then last but not least, when we will get your annual reports, we will also compare certain expenses. Was this foreseen in the budget? If it's completely not foreseen, is it explained somewhere? So it's also there very important. Peter, next slide. Okay, so for the team projects, I think you went a little bit further. Yeah, for the team projects, we have 300,000 is the maximum. It's to be spent over 5 years. That's also the maximum duration. Those projects after 5 years cannot be extended. And we work with annual activity years starting from the 1st of September to the 31st of August the following year. So the first activity year will start from the 1st of September 2026. Each expenditure will need to be reported in a certain activity year. We will later on talk about the financial framework, but it's very interesting to look in the financial framework. If you type cutoff, you will have all the cutoff rules on expenditures to know in which year you really need to report things. And then budget transfers are usually possible, except in this team call for the first year. Why is that? Because the first year starts in the royal decree that ends in 2027, and you cannot transfer money from one royal decree where this global budget was voted to another royal decree. So it's important to be really on top of this budget the first year. Let's say that if you, for instance, budgeted 80,000 euros for the first year and you only spent 40,000, you will lose 40,000 budget. If you budget 50,000 and you need 60,000, you will never be able to get that 10,000 extra. So that it will have to be paid from your own funds somewhere. So it's crucial to really look very carefully at this first year budget. Okay. Okay. So you can do a lot, and there is a lot of flexibility, but there are some rules where you can lose budgets. And the first rule is that first year, which I explained. If you don't spend the amount you have budgeted the first year, you will lose that money. The second year, you will need to look at what you have budgeted the 2 first years, and you need to spend at least 50% of what you have budgeted in those first 2 years. If you don't reach that 50%, the difference will be deducted from your budget, and we will ask to send us that money back. And then in year 3, you need to look at the overall budget, and you will have to, year 1, 2, and 3, you will have to have spent 45%. So there are 3 rules that need to be followed. So if you're approximately on track, you will never have budget cuts. But if there are really big underspendings, you risk to lose a little money. So the first year transfers are not possible, but in the second year, you can overspend or you can underspend. If you overspend, we will never send you more money. We will follow this contract, what you stipulated now, to do the transfers. That means that you will have to pre-finance what you have overspent, and then the following year, we will, according to the budget you have planned now, we will transfer the money, and then you will have to recuperate that money from that moment on. If you underspend in year 2, automatically the underspend will be transferred to the next year, unless you have not reached 50% of the 2 years that you have budgeted. Okay, so a little bit complicated, but if you really read it carefully, you will memorize this. Okay, the reporting. Yes, we will always compare your expenditures to your initial budget, and there is a yearly date on which all these annual reports need to be submitted. For teams, it's dependent on which Flemish institution you're working with. We have a couple of dates established to send us the budgets. It's also very important to send things in time. because we have to prepare annually a report that has to be sent to the federal government, and we also have an annual audit that needs to go over 20% of all our expenditures. So and if you want to have time to reply on questions, you really need to submit on time. Okay, next slide. Okay, the financial framework, those are the rules we have stipulated. They're also part of the contract. We refer to them. What is interesting for you at this stage in this financial framework, it gives you an insight on the different cost categories we have. We have 5 cost categories. We will go over them a little bit later. But what you could also look into is what we require of justifications. So if you have expenditures, please look into that financial framework to see that you have all the items listed in those expenditures digitalized, so that later on, when questions are asked by the company auditor, you can quickly reply. The second issue is the cutoff rules. If you look into the cutoff rules, it's very interesting, because then you know, okay, this expenditure, we need to report it in this year or not. Those 2 things are important. It also indicates, but that we will go on the next slide. It for DGD, for the federal government, every expenditure has to comply with a certain rule, with certain rules. You always need a piece of justifications for every expense that you're making. So if you cannot prove it, you cannot declare it. They need to be able to verify if the expenditure is genuine. It needs to be linked to the outcomes of the project. It needs to be linked to the approved budget. It needs to be spent during the period of the project. So sometimes we receive questions. Yeah, can we start making expenditures now, buying investment costs before the start of the project? That's not possible. We also receive sometimes questions at the end of the project. Can we have on the 15th of September still a workshop? No, it's outside of the scope of that 5 years, so you will not be able to report it. So it's important to take into account the period of the project. We also want to respect the legal obligations. For instance, if you pay a certain service contract, and in your country you need to pay taxes on it, it's not good to try to avoid those rules. So we really want to comply with the legislation you have in your own country. It also has to respect the financial framework, and as much as possible your internal rules.
Yeah. Bayad ka.
Okay. Of course, we have to make sure that nothing is double financed, and it can also not appear on the non-eligible cost list. You could look also in the financial framework what those costs are. One of the items that they're clear about is alcohol costs, for instance. Sometimes we see a bottle of liquor that is offered as a gift. Well, you cannot put that in the expenses. Sometimes we see a warranty for a room that is rented. This is a non-eligible cost. All advanced payments, loans are non-eligible costs. So it's important to look into those 20 non-eligible costs. Next slide. Okay, the first of the 5 categories we have is the investment costs. Now, in order to budget something under investment costs, it has to be a durable good and it has to have a longer lifespan. And we don't know what the exact threshold is per institution for a cost to be put on investment costs. It could be that, for instance, in a certain country where a lot of laptops are disappearing, the internal policy is to really put an amount of 500 euros and all laptops need to be inventorized. Well, then that's the rule. Now, in absence of a threshold, we have put a threshold of 1,000 euros, VAT excluded. Meaning also, don't put things under investment costs if you don't intend to put them in your inventory list. Sometimes we see lab consumables under investment cost. Maybe you spend a lot, but all the individual items, you will never put them on your inventory list. It's more a follow-up of voorraad. How do you say that in English? Of what you have available, that you will follow up, but it will not be your inventory. So please always check what your local policy is there. And sometimes when we have done the budget control, when we have seen that there are some items on it that we think maybe it's not okay to put it under investment cost because you will not put it in the inventory list, we refer to put it under operational costs as general services or and goods that you buy. Okay, next slide. Okay, what is also very important, and that is something we need to clear up right in front. We have different instances that can control us in Belgium. We have DGD, the federal government, but also the Court of Accounts that can also control them, and they don't like lump sums. So there is one lump sum that we allow because the federal government also agrees on that lump sum is, well, two actually, but the first one is the per diem payment. We have an international per diem payment rule in Belgium and also a local per diem rule from Belgium instances. And we have the coordination costs. Those are lump sums. But generally all the other things, except for lump sums that are well written down in the scholarship framework, we don't have them. So that means that if you are using in your own country lump sums, we will always need to have that local policy, and we will have to look if it's reasonable, and if we can put them together with the rules we have to abide ourselves. One of the things that we often see is a daily subsistence allowance. It's perfectly okay to pay a daily subsistence allowance, but sometimes in some countries they go to extreme heights. And for us, we have the rule, we pay per diem, regardless of function, of 30 euro per day. And you pay that only when you are at a location that is not your station of duty. So for instance, if you are working at a university and you organize a workshop within that university, then it's logical you don't get a per diem. Now, if you pay a per diem should cover, in fact, the food, drinks, and little costs like local transport costs that you have or stuff like that. So it's not logical to us that you pay a per diem to people, you call it per diem, and you also pay for lunches. That's double financing, and that's a non-eligible cost for us. So it's important to look into your own rules and to clarify that before you spend any money. Okay, sitting allowances is written down as non-eligible expense, but we have foreseen a service allowance. We do this in exceptional cases. For instance, you need to invite farmers that come to a workshop. You want to give them something. You can call that a service allowance. A service, the difference between a service contract and a service allowance is that a service contract, you pay that to external people, and there is a contract linked to it where you say, this is what we want you to do. This is the remuneration that you will receive for doing this. This is the period in which you have to do it. It's a limited amount of period, and it's external experts. Now, if you want to make it less formal, you're not going to, if you want to pay 10 euros for a farmer, if they come to participate in a workshop, you're not going to give them a contract that they need to sign. So there we allow to have a service allowance. Now be careful, if you call this transport allowance, it's not okay, because transport for us is something you really need to prove, or distance-based, or based on justification from the transport provider. So the bus ticket, a taxi receipt, or stuff like that. So there is only one opt-out a little, but of course, if we see a budget where everything is service allowance, we will also object, because we're giving something that the government is not very happy and keen on seeing. Okay, then the personnel costs. A few peculiarities about the personnel costs. You cannot have personnel costs in Belgium. They're only reserved for our local partners. And we will only grant them to people, to institutions co-signing the VLIR agreement. So if you have given the name only as a contact from one institution, and you have in your budget put under personnel costs other institutions, you will automatically get a remark on that, because we only grant personnel costs to institutions that are co-signing the VLIR contract. It's important for us to also know that local legislation is followed up. If there are some social security taxes and stuff that need to be paid, we want to be sure that those are honored. You could work if the activities are limited in time and they're not co-signing the contract, you could work with service contracts that you will report and budget under operational costs. Also, topping ups is something that we'd rather not give to academic staff, because we think that academic responsibilities are part of the input that the partners give to the project. But if you really need it, you can always you can always request it, but think about it before you budget this. It will always be a question that we are raising. What we also often see, you get a coordination costs. Coordination costs are to cover for the coordination and the administration of your project. It's not logical that you give employment contracts or stuff to people doing that coordination or that administration, because in fact it's already covered by the coordination costs. In some exceptional cases, we will look into your request, but it will always be a question that we will raise. There are some in the financial framework, in the justifications, there are some rules what you need to provide when you employ somebody. We need a contract, we need payment sheets, salary slips, we need the payment proofs. We need also, if somebody works 30% on the project, it has to be reasonable, and we need the employment contract. And topping ups, we will never go over 40% of the gross salary. Okay, next slide. Then the scholarship framework. We work in Belgium with different actors throughout the country, and we try to give exactly the same amounts to the scholars coming from abroad studying at our institutions. So there is not a lot of freedom in applying different rates than in Belgium than the scholarship rates that are programmed in the scholarship framework. You will also find all the details on the scholarship framework in a separate framework next to the financial framework. Some attention points if you have a scholar, for instance, a PhD scholar. Normally all costs are included in this PhD scholarship. So we often see that extra costs are budgeted, but the financial framework stipulates only a very, very limited amount of possible costs that you could do as extra costs. So sometimes if you have budgeted this, we will ask more questions. Which cost do you intend to pay under this? In the budget that we will send you back, you will see under scholarship that everything, when you type that it's a Belgian scholarship, that all the amounts that are in the scholarship framework will be already filled in. So there is not a lot of freedom in changing them. And then, of course, the local scholarships that will be different from every country. So there is nothing pre-programmed there because that's we don't know what all the different rules and the different rates that you're applying in your country. We don't know them, so we didn't put them in there. Next slide. Okay, so the coordination cost. If you work with more than one partner, you have 5% local coordination cost, but you will need to divide that 5% amongst the different partners. In the budget table that we will send you back, there is a sheet called partner overview, and there is in yellow a place where you need to put the percentages so that we know which percentage of the coordination goes to which partner. There's also a very the coordination costs in the financial framework stipulates what is expected to be paid with the scholarships. So financial staff, administrative staff that works on banking costs also, the use of premises, infrastructure, all those things normally are to be paid with the coordination costs. It's important to know that we will not give more overhead than this coordination costs. Next slide. Okay, so every year we have our company auditor that needs to check 20% of all the justifications. And that will include probably also some of the expenses you have reported, also in the partner countries. And they always request three things. They request the justification, the evidence, but they also request the payment, the proof of payment, and also the proof on the registration in your accountancy. Those three things will always need to be provided. Now, we see often that payment vouchers are submitted as proof of payment. In fact, that's an instruction, an agreed upon instruction to the bank, but the most clear proof is your bank statement, where we see that the amount has been deducted from the bank account, or the cash book if you paid it from your from cash, if there is a registration in the cash book. So in fact, the financial report and the budget and the financial report, those canvases, they cannot they need to be fed with what you have registered in the accountancy, and they're not replacing your accountancy. Okay, next framework, next slide. That I think I'm done with my presentation here. So if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Oh, no questions, so I was very clear.
Okay, there is one question there, please.
Okay. Sophie. Yeah.
Okay, good afternoon.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Good afternoon. I have a question related to the 40% topping up that can be paid. We are planning to hire a project secretary, but a topping up of 40% is only 20 euros a month. Is there any room for adjustments here, or this is really the maximum that we can pay?
Well, according to the financial framework, this is the maximum that you could pay as a topping up. Now, is this is an employment contract to the university?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So then she will only work a percentage for the project and not full time.
No, that's correct indeed, but 40% is only 20 euros a month. It's nothing, of course.
Well, you could use a part of your coordination costs to pay her extra, but we will only accept the 20 euro if her employment contract stipulates that she only earns, well, 60 then, I think. Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Jan van Impe.
Yeah, thank you very much. It is a bit technical, and if you rather than reply later on or on an individual basis, that's fine with me. But coming back to the scholarships, suppose we have one partner signing the contract, and that partner will come a PhD student from another university that stays on the payroll of that other university, but will do the PhD study together with us in that partner university. Can we top up that student via scholarship? Because we cannot provide you at that moment, the PhD student is not an employee of the university signing the contract, but as a PhD student at that university and also at my university.
You mean that PhD student coming to Belgium?
For a while, yes.
Yes. Okay, so if that PhD comes to Belgium, he will get the PhD rates of the scholarships in Belgium.
Yes. Yeah.
And locally, if you fill out the amount you want to pay that PhD student under scholarships, we will accept it.
Yeah.
So I don't see the problem.
Maybe I misunderstood your information there. Because the university he's affiliated with is not signing the contract. The one signing the contract is the university where he performed his PhD study. You see what I mean?
Yeah, so you want to foresee an employment contract for that PhD student, a local employment contract?
No, because he will keep his position at his local university, but he will perform his PhD study in the signing partner university.
Maybe I want to come in there because the idea is that PhDs are linked to the project context. So I think that in an ideal situation, the institution where the PhD student is currently active should also be contracted in that case, because it's not the idea to support PhDs at a non-contracted institution.
Yeah.
Even if they are enrolled in the PhD program of the contracted institution. Because the other university still cannot give the PhD even. I know it's complicated. If we need to discuss later,
maybe
fine.
we have to have a look at it more in detail outside directly via to have a short exchange meeting on it when we send out the feedback on the budget. We can have a meeting on it to understand all the details. I think that will be more efficient probably.
Okay, no, thanks. Well understood. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Marijke.
Yes, thank you. I also just
2
want to make
minutes,
sure
yeah.
that I understand it correctly, what it means if you want to pay an administrator at your partner university, someone who does the project coordination, administrative things. Can you explain once more what the limits are? Because I'm not, also with the question that was asked before, I'm not completely sure if I understood correctly.
Well, normally the coordination cost, the 5% that the local partner institution is receiving, should cover the administration and the finances of that project. So if you want to hire somebody specifically on that project, normally it's the E2 that needs to cover that. In sometimes when an explanation is given that the coordination costs are extremely under pressure and that you can really not provide any quality on that work if you don't pay additional sums, then we need to look into that individually, and usually we agree upon it.
Okay, thank you. I assume it will also get clearer when we get the feedback on the budgets, if there was an issue with how we budgeted it. So it will get clearer. But that was really helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, then I would like to invite our colleague Tim. Is he online?
Yes. Thank you, Peter. Hello, everyone. Just giving you a little bit of information about where you will have to fill in the extra information that is required to be able to draft your contract, which is also inside the tool, the same platform that you probably already know, where you created and submitted your proposal for Team 2026. I'm going to have to contradict the PowerPoint a little bit, because the second bullet point is no longer there in the format, so you're not required to add your project summary again or pictures. It's just about the information who will sign the contract and some extra financial information that we also require. Let me share my screen for just a second. So this is our platform with which you are hopefully familiar or will be in the near future. This is what you will see probably, and this is the dossier of your proposal, Team 2026. We will create a new dossier for you named Follow-up. The link will be sent to you via email somewhere in the middle of next week. So the direct link, which will lead you directly here. A very simple format, just the introduction, just a general introduction here, which gives you some general information about how the tool works, but that's probably something you already know. And then other than that, the contracting information itself, which has been pre-filled for you, taking all the information from any partner promoter that had been previously identified by you in the team members section of your proposal. So I just added one as a test case here. So you have to add information on top of it. So by clicking it, obviously, you'll see the information of the partner promoter that you identified. And if you scroll down, you can add the required extra information, the address and country of the institution, enterprise number, as well as the legal representative who should be legally allowed to sign the contract in the institution's name, including their email address, which is important because we use DocuSign, an electronic online signing platform to which we send the email, obviously. So very important. And then some financial questions about the accounting of the institution, proof of registration of those accounts and files, and how they are stored, and who's responsible for the storage. This information you will have to submit just like you submitted the proposal to the ECOS or GEO of the Flemish institution, and they will have to validate the information. So checking mostly for consistency, right? Consistency with the original partner institutions, as mentioned on the proposal. So technically, the number of promoters here should match the number of promoters and institutions inside the proposal. You are allowed technically to add people here, although it's not advised unless you let us know and you give us the reasons why. There are extra partners, and as both Peters I think explained already, is that whoever is put into this list is an institution mandated to get funding, right? So be able to pay expenditures. If you're not in here, you won't be able to do that. So that's an important thing to stress on here. So if there's something wrong here, you can add stuff, you can override stuff, obviously, but it's first ECOS and GEO who will check for consistency, obviously, and correctness and accuracy. And we will do the same check later on to see whether everything matches and everything is okay. By the 11th of June or earlier, if possible, we are expecting you to submit the information, so it's very light. Hopefully that will be okay for you. And if you are wondering who has access to this dossier, we will give the same people who had access to the previous dossier, the proposal dossier, access to this one. Those persons obviously can add new users if there's people still missing from the list who would need to go in here and add the information or proofread the information, so you can manage this yourself, just like you manage the user permissions on your proposal dossier. Also, a good thing to mention is that there is also, just like in the proposal dossier, a dashboard here, which visualizes all the detailed information that you filled in on each partner again. Not everything, sorry, but specifically about the legal representatives, and also the budget, which at this time, at this moment, reflects your initially imported and submitted budget of your proposal. And later on, when budget review, as Peter explained, is done, is finalized, we will import a new version here, and from then on it'll reflect the approved budget, which will also be the annex to your contract. So hopefully this short explanation, very short, is clear to you. If any questions pop up already now, then you can ask them, obviously, or send an email to me or to info@Figos, obviously, if any problems arise when filling the data. Yes, Professor Speelman.
For the contracting information, also the Flemish institutes have to fill in that information. Is there any pre-filled information there, or do we all individually also have to fill in all those things?
No, it's easier than that. So it's only required for partner institutions, of which we have no knowledge, obviously. We have a centralized data set, which is hopefully correct, with all the legal representatives and all the information of all the Flemish higher education institutions. So you don't have to worry about that part.
Okay, thank you.
If there are any other questions right now, it's hopefully pretty self-explanatory. So once you start filling it in,
okay.
Of course, you can email us. Yes,
okay.
Peter.
Thank you, Tim. I will share then again the screen. Just a second. So we were at the contracting information. We will, of course, correct the element that Tim has referred to in the PowerPoint and send it to you. I already corrected it here. we had that introduction. Important is that after those steps are taken, your budget is reviewed and you have filled out this practical information, then we will really do the contracting, and that will be via a digital platform. That process should go quite smoothly. In some cases, it will require, for instance, it's the first time you work with a local partner institution. Sometimes it might be important to explain the head of the institution that will have to sign how he has to do it. So some guidance might be needed to make sure that there are no delays in that signature procedure. If it's with partners that we have already worked with different various times and that already know how this DocuSign works, then normally it's quite straightforward. And we have been able to sign it in I think 99 in all cases, even if there were like institutions mentioning that it would not work. In the end, with a little bit of guidance, it always worked out. Then maybe just also referring to that, we talked a lot about the finances, but there will, of course, your project will start the 1st of September, and on a yearly basis, there will be this reporting, which has two components, the financial and also the narrative reporting. The narrative reporting is what we call a progress report, where you will in established format comment on the progress of your projects, and mainly from the viewpoint of trying to compare the evolution towards the achievements as compared to what you had actually proposed. So what was proposed in the project outcomes in your proposal, the idea is that we find in that report really that we can understand, okay, up to which extent you are progressing towards reaching your goals, your project outcomes. And that there is also a section with more details on what has really been done in terms of activities and what were setbacks. So the idea is that in the report you can provide all kinds of feedbacks on realizations, key deliverables, lessons learned. That you also keep us informed if there are really particular success stories, even refer to eventual media publications or elements that could be of use that maybe can lead to the fact that later on we would contact you to see whether we can use certain materials for impact stories, or whether you would like to take part in a community talk that we are organizing on a regular basis and present. So this is something mostly after a year or two that you already have some things to show. Then we could actually also organize a sort of a presentation in a VLIRUS community talk. That's not obliged, but it's just something that we offer. We also will ask you to follow up on a number of standard indicators. In your current proposal, you did not have to really go very deep into the indicators, or you didn't have to provide any targets, but now we will ask you to report on the number of standard indicators that are mandatory for VLIRUS. And next to that, you can of course also comment on project-specific own indicators. The idea is that this is also part of the yearly reporting, but here it will be an Excel file that actually you will reuse each year, because you will build upon, let's say in year one, you had 2 scientific publications identified, but they're not yet published. Well, in year 2, the publishing link will be included and so forth. So it's a continuum. That is important. And these are organized along the standard domains of VLIRUS, the standard result domains, in fact. So typical indicators are the co-authors, the joint international publications. For educational programs, that could be an updated or a revised educational program at the level of the partner institution. Let's be clear about it. It could also be a number of specific trainings, modules organized. So these are standard indicators. Of course, we perfectly understand that your project will not deal with all of this. If you don't have anything to mention, then that's also fine. Yeah? The idea is that you only include where you have effectively been realizing. In terms of people, it's important there to list also, again, the students benefiting from the project in the Global South. So at the level of the local partner institutions, it's not the idea to list Flemish students involved here, but really the master students or PhDs or bachelors that were supported in one way or another by the project at the level of the partner institutions. And then in the domain of outreach and policy support, very important for us, the idea is to report on activities which are non-academic, which are with other actors or which are mixed, but settings, extension workshops, capacity building towards our external actors. And there you will be asked to list the number of activities and also give us an estimation of the persons that were involved in those activities. And each year you will also be asked to self-assess whether how is your project advancing in terms of this uptake of created knowledge or created tools or whatever. You will score yourself on a rate from 0 to 4. How far do you stand with that uptake? And you have to include a small comment on that. But that is also it's logical that in the beginning that can be a low rate, but the idea is that by the end of the project there is a progress there. And then other typical indicators are, for instance, new strategic partnerships that were established thanks to the projects. This is not about two promoters having a meeting with each other. It is really about, okay, thanks to the project, we were able to establish a strategic partnership with the water company in Ecuador. And then you can list it as something that was achieved, or it can be an academic strategic partnership. I mean, and then the last field is more about policies and systems and infrastructure at the level of the partner institution. It could be, okay, thanks to the project, a new institutional policy on research ethics has been established, and that is then also a result to show. These are just examples. So that is something that you will, it's not only about finances that you report on per year, but this was like a few words on what will be on a yearly basis also the content reporting. You will get the formats, you will get the link to a place where you find these formats, but this will all be later on, because this reporting will of course be it will be after the first year, but it's good that during the year you already have a look at what is expected so that you can work along that during the project startup. Now, that is basically the kind of information that we wanted to give now. We hope to in the future to also be able to meet you, well, the Flemish persons if you're in person, or are there interesting activities we can try to online activities we can try to join. So we hope to, if there are visits of your project team, the promoters here in Belgium, and there is like a wish to meet also with the Vleerwest staff, then you can always check whether there is a possibility there. So there is flexibility in reaching out to us. It doesn't have to be only at that yearly moment of annual progress and financial reporting. So this is an open offer there. This is actually what we wanted to say for today. So you will be expecting from us next week this next communication, which will explain these different elements that have to be done, and you will also get this PowerPoint information. Are there still any questions for now? Very detailed questions specific for your project. When you get the email with the info on the budget, that is also a moment that you can already address them. But if there are more generic questions still or doubts, we still have a few moments. Everything clear? I see that we had participants both from Flanders and from the Global South, so that is excellent. And we will, of course, try to share also the recordings on our YouTube channel, I think, as quickly as possible. Okay, and again, I wish you a lot of success with your project. Be aware that in each project, that the first takeoff year is the one that you need to organize a lot of things. So take your time, and you can already start with, of course, exchanges before, but the first year is always a very important one to get everything organized and running. But luckily, with a team project, you have these 5 years of activity. We only had, like mentioned, this unfortunate element that because the first year ends with a VLIRUS formal program, that we have some limitations there in terms of transfers. But apart from that, the team setting is also quite flexible. So if during the project there are doubts or there are issues, you can reach out to the Flemish institution ICOS and the GEO in the university colleges, but you always know how to find us as well and to contact us. Okay, if there are no questions, I see that everybody is indicating that there are no further questions. Then it was very nice meeting you online at least, and thank you for participating. And we will be in touch with you at the latest next week, but I will send the PowerPoint of today. I will send it to you today or tomorrow. Thank you. Then I will go on and stop the recording. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Asante.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.